Hello, cyclists. Omar Mir and Stephen Toby were gracious enough to forward to me their Garmin tracks for passes, their individual passes on the Barnesburg time trial over the past year. A Garmin track is basically data storage on each rider, Omar Mir and Stephen Toby. And the device records many things, including heart rate, velocity, elevation, temperature, etc. So it was an opportunity for me to compare the two riders, their velocity and other things. I've just started analyzing the data. And just as I had always said, the course is open to strategy, to strategize on an effort. Let me show you this curve right here. Just bear with me. Steven's curve here is in pink. This is a velocity curve. Excuse me. So right here, this axis is miles, so 2,468. And then, of course, that's 10, but 8 miles right here is the end of the time trial. And then this axis here is velocity. So you can see they both start out at a velocity of 0, of course, and then jump out to a velocity of 20 and basically 26 comparatively. Omar here, his curve is in blue. You can see how his velocity changes over the course. And then Stephen Toby's velocities are in pink. You can see overall that Stephen, and of course this isn't the contest here, this is just a comparison. Stephen is a little bit faster in other words, his curve is over the top of Omar's. Stephen being a competitive cyclist and Omar being a club, more of a touring, high mileage cycling enthusiast. You would expect that. But what's interesting are the inflections. Every time each one of them have a dip in velocity, basically, so does the other one. So these two curves are completely isolated on the course. In other words, each rider recorded his own. I think they were even on different dates. But notice here, this big dip, they both dip enormously here to make the turn at 4 miles. And then they both accelerate. And then the biggest difference in the two curves is out here between miles 4 and, let's call it mile 7. You can see that Omar's curve is quite a bit lower than Stephen's curve here on the route back. We all know that the route back is a little bit more difficult. And then, of course, the last mile here, they're almost dead on. They're almost exactly the same. The finishing velocities here, Stephen really sprinted toward the finish. He's a sprinter. And then Omar let the speed cave in, which makes sense since Omar is not as interested in an ultimate time, not being the competitive natured cyclist that Stephen is. It just didn't matter to him on that sprint finish. But it's curious the mirror image the two curves have. In fact, the next curve that I have is a comparison between the two. This line here is the comparison of the two data. In other words, this axis here is Stephen, and that's plotted against this axis here. Let me raise that a little bit. Sorry. Is Omar. So, this is Omar and this is Stephen. So you can see there is definitely a strong correlation. In fact, the correlation is about 80%. In the equation here, you can see this leading coefficient here of 0.97 indicates a very, very strong linear relationship between the two velocity curves. And then the last curve, this is just the beginning. this is Omar's velocities here. This is mile in the milepost in the course, and this is a velocity here. Let me move the spreadsheet up a little bit here. Sorry. You can see that if we regress the data into a function, a cubic function, where the milepost is the variable, you can see we get a correlation here. Here's the midpoint, the turnaround. You know, that Omar, he builds, speed, builds. Basically, the points are the actual data. The large black line is the regression. Nice smooth. So his building speed, and you can see his maximum speed average is right here at roughly 2.25 miles, and then he begins to decay, and his average speeds begin to become cannibalized by terrain and course conditions. The turnaround, of course, takes a lot out, and then on the way back, you've got to climb out of the hill, out of that hole, and then you reach the church, and then you start back downhill again for that last 1.25 miles, and you can build your speed up again. So anyway, this is how I'm analyzing the data, and I'm going to use this data to come up with a new strategy in terms of 1 mile assignments for those of you that are interested in keeping track and actually deploying a strategy. We need to go to half-mile assignments, but I'll have that. Anyone interested in being a recipient of a strategy at Barnesburg, which would make a tremendous difference in the outcome of your time trials in 2013, just let me know, and I'll be glad to tailor make a strategy specifically for you, and then I'll post calculations, of course, for you. Or general calculations for you to obtain on the Google News Group. Okay, good night, everybody. Hope you enjoy, and I hope it wasn't too technical, but feel free to ask me any questions as you have them. Thanks, bye.